Hey, welcome back to the yoga mat. So in this video, we're going to look at some variations, some modifications, and some ways to build strength for Chaturanga and also for upward facing dog. So we're going to begin at the wall, looking at some of the skills of lowering down and first learning how to build strength. So we'll go right over here to the wall. And when we begin Chaturanga, one of the things that I see most is people's shoulders dipping below the elbows. Do 60 of those in a class over weeks and weeks and weeks, and that's when we start to see soft tissue injuries showing up. So we're going to look at a way to build some strength so that we can do these poses with integrity when we come down to the mat. So let's begin at the wall. The further you walk your feet back, the more weight bearing this becomes. So I like to start pretty vertical. So this way we can get the shape of the pose and then we'll start working on the strengthening. So I like to have my hands right out in front like you would for plank pose. And then we're going to practice the skill of lowering the chest between the hands. So a lot of times I see in class like the face going between the hands, and what we want is to bend the elbows straight back, lower your chest, and then push straight back from the wall. So try that a few times, keeping the elbows close to the rib cage, keeping the shoulders right over the wrists. Good. Pressing into the wall, straight back up. And then you could start to perhaps walk the feet back, walk the hands down, and this time when you lower, it's going to be a little bit more weight in the triceps. So this way you can start to work down toward the floor, first starting at the wall, then maybe going to a countertop or a table or something like that, then maybe a low bench or the seat of a chair, and finally down to the mat. This way you can progressively build on your strength in this pose. So let's come down to the mat now, and we're going to look at a couple of different things here. First is a way to lower down. So let's say we're doing sun salutations. If Chaturanga is being called every time, and maybe you know that you're not quite at the strength level that you can do it with integrity and with good sustainable alignment, there's a better way to lower down. So often I hear knees, chest, chin called as the alternative, but I really think Chaturanga and knees, chest, chin are two separate poses. They really build different skills. So one way to work on strength building here while we're practicing is when we come into a pose, like plank pose, either high plank or low plank. Let's say we're in high plank, we're just going to lower the knees to the mat, and then we're going to drape forward. So bend the elbows straight back, keeping them tight into the body, drape the thighs, the hips, the belly, and the chest all the way down, slowly and with control. So I'll show that one more time. If we're up in plank, we're going to drape forward. So bending the elbows straight back, keeping control as we slowly lower all the way down. This is going to activate all the same muscles that we're going to want to build strength in and recruit when we come into Chaturanga. So let's look at a way to practice this and to build strength with some props. So I have two bolsters here. Usually, you may only need one bolster, depending on the thickness, depending on how sturdy it is. I really want enough support that when I come into this pose, my body can be fully supported by the bolsters and I can find the shape of the pose. So it may take some practice to find the exact right height for you, but this is what we're going to work with today. So what we're going to do is come into plank pose right over top of the bolsters. And you want to get in here so that your pelvis can be supported. So you may need to come quite far forward. And then come on up into plank pose. Then you're going to bend your elbows and lower straight down until your body weight is caught by the bolster. So as you can see here, I'm in a pretty good setup for Chaturanga. This is a great place to practice the engagement that it takes to hold this pose. So maybe you even want to bring a block between your thighs, or you want to work on pressing the knees back, squeezing your butt, squeeze your elbows in tight. You can really turn on all your muscles here, even though the weight of your body is secured by the bolster. And this is also a great place to practice coming into upward facing dog. So from here, you could flip the feet over, press into the hands, shift the hips forward, and you're in a really good, really safe, really supported downward or upward facing dog right here on the bolster. So what we're doing here is using the props to help our body find the shape of the pose, start to commit that to muscle memory, and to practice the muscular engagements that it takes to stay in that lowered position. I want to show one more strengthening exercise here that will help you to build some of the strength that it takes to lower down into Chaturanga without the props, if that's a goal that you have in your practice. So my teacher used to call these cat bows, which I think is way too cute of a word for how much work this is. So we're going to begin by doing a low version of this with the knees on the mat. So you need to come far enough forward that your pelvis is either touching the bolster or right above it. Knees on the mat, so we're coming into a low plank here. And then you're going to bend your elbows straight back, keeping them in tight, slowly lowering down with control. Let the bolster catch the weight of your body, then press into your hands and come straight back up. So you can do this a few times, lowering down and pressing straight back up. Keeping going as many times as you want. And then maybe you want to come into the higher version with knees lifted, which is going to be even more work on the body, on the core and on the upper body. So lifting up into plank, slowly lowering down, letting your weight rest into the bolster, and then pressing straight back up. Again, lower. Let the weight settle into the bolster, and then engage, and press back up. So this is a great way to start to build that core strength, that upper body strength, to keep your back safe, to keep your shoulders safe when we practice these poses. Hope you found that helpful, and I'll see you next time.